there's an outline on your Facebook page. Let's see. There's an outline on the Facebook page, the West Park Baptist Church Facebook page. The outline is from Wednesday Bible Study. I'm using the same outline for um, this time that we share right now. Um, I'm using this text to compare Job to black people who had been enslaved in America and kidnapped from Africa. The question is, why do righteous people suffer? Job's friends laid out an argument. They said, look, God is a just God. They said, look, uh, whatever happens to you, if you're suffering, it must be because of divine judgment. Be careful with that argument. That's the argument that racists and oppressors use. And then finally, there is the argument of plain old ignorance. If you're suffering, it is because you must have done something wrong. Be careful for that argument as well, because what that assumes, in the case of African Americans who are the descendants of the enslaved and the kidnapped, that assumes that the white kidnappers were good people, that they were righteous. That assumes that the plantation owners who raped little boys and little girls and men and women, who were cannibals, who are a lot like our president today, that assumes that they were righteous people. And it also assumes that God agrees with their unrighteousness. Job opens up a can of worms for they that truly want to hear a word from the Lord. Why do righteous suffer? Well, on the outline, I share with you that Job's story raises a question for an individual. But one of the glaring things I want you to know about this text in Job is that Job is a non-Israelite. He's a Gentile. He's a non-Hebrew. He is a non-Jew. This story is about how they see us and our relationship to God. This is a story about how the so-called chosen people see those people who are not chosen. And their argument is very similar to the argument of Job's three friends. You must have done something. You know God is putting divine judgment on you. You know that God is a just God. And you know what Job said, which I love? Job said, you know what? That's not right. In this case, God is not just. And this is not divine judgment. And uh, I'm innocent. I have done nothing. And the question really is, why would God punish somebody who has done nothing? The question holds true for people of African descent, Negroid African descent who have been enslaved. Why would God punish us when we've done nothing? Well, we got to go back to this bet between God and Satan. And Satan challenged God. Satan said, if you withdraw your protection, then they will stop worshiping you. God said, okay, I'll withdraw my protection. You can have a shot at him, but you can't touch him. Okay? You can't touch him. Touch all this stuff. You can't touch his soul. That's what it means. You can't touch his soul. And the reality is that Satan cannot touch the soul of one who truly loves the Lord. You simply cannot touch this. I want you to turn to this outline. I'm going to read this one brief paragraph of introduction. And I want you to take this outline and I want you to sit down at breakfast with yourself or your family. And I want you to go through these 10 points on this outline. The paragraph reads as following: suffering will always reveal the true character and nature of every individual. This is the heart of Satan's challenge to God in the book of Job. The adversary questions not only Job's integrity, but the very truthfulness of God by implying that there are no genuinely good people in the world, only people who behave well when life is easy. But God declares that there are people whose goodness is authentic no matter what the circumstances. Job stands as a witness. He was righteous when he was wealthy, and he remained righteous when he was utterly destitute. His love for God did not depend on his condition or how much money he had in the bank. Even in his questioning, his meditation, and his bold complaints, Job's heart stayed rooted in a genuine relationship with the divine. If you study this text, you will see that meditation became Job's key, his pathway to humility before God. And humility before God is the key to restoration. What Job teaches the African world, the African diaspora, and all suffering people anywhere is true. True reparation begins in the heart, when one surrenders to God and refuses to let the suffering distort their soul. When we look at this, we see that Job's restoration is God's testimony that one who remains with integrity during suffering will ultimately rise again. Don't let your suffering define you, and don't allow for your suffering to drive a wedge between you and God. In fact, Job learns through his suffering how to talk to God properly. The reason why many of us do not receive the blessings that we desire is because we don't know how to talk to God properly. I want to go through these 10 points. I want you to take this outline. You don't have to print it out, but you can pull it up on your phone. It's on our website, wpbccleveland.com. And it is also on our Facebook page. Point number 1, why do the righteous suffer? Point number 2, Job as a non-Israelite and Africans as global non-citizens. Point number 3, Satan is an accuser. Point number 4, Job's friends gave him wrong advice. Point number 5, Job's argument was that he was innocent. Point number 6, Job's friends argue that God is just. Job says, not so fast. 7, Elihu, the younger voice, tries to give a parallel, saying that suffering teaches character and discipline. The word that I want to use for that, I cannot say on the air, but it rhymes with it. Okay? Point number 8, suffering as a warning or a character. The argument is being laid that suffering warns us to not be disobedient in the future. You really think people don't know that when you're disobedient, bad things happen? Point number 8 or 9, Job accuses God. Job said, God ain't right. God is not right. 10, Job ruled, the question is asked, if Job ruled the world for a day, what would the world look like? If black people ruled the world for a day, what would we change immediately? God has a response. God says, look, boy, you are not God. You don't even understand God. I made this thing. You ain't made nothing. Where were you when I put the sun in the sky? Point number 12. Job realizes that he's overstepped his bounds. He humbles himself before God, and he talks to God with respect. As a result of Job's display of respect, God blesses him. God restores everything. The text wants you to know to learn how to talk to God, to learn how to listen to God, and learn when not to listen to your friends. In conclusion, this outline We find that Job is restored, he's honored, he's multiplied. Africa will be restored. Africa will be honored. Africa will be multiplied. Job's vindication. The prophetic sign of Job serves as a sign to the children of the diaspora that we will be vindicated. We will be vindicated. We will be restored. We will be honored. And it won't be because of affirmative action or DEI. Who needs DEI when we serve a God who is king? I give you a short bibliography. It's got some powerful books on there. Sheikh Anta Diop, African Origins of Civilizations. I've got that on my shelf. Chancellor Williams, The Destruction of the Black Civilization. That's on my shelf. Ivan Van Sertima, They Came Before Columbus. I don't have it, but I will. Lerone Bennett, Before the Mayflower. And John G. Jackson, Introduction to African Civilization. One thing that Job does for me is Job lets me know that Africa will be great again. Africa will be destroyed. And that God knows our story. He's just trying to teach the devil a lesson. Thanks be to God. All right. Find that outline. Print it out. Read it to your family. Discuss it. And join me at 11 o'clock. God bless you.